being recorded as usual, and my name is Dr. Sameh Abdel Jalil, and this is A230A, and this is the third week. We've been talking about the Renaissance, we've been talking about the Elizabethan age, and we set all of that against the backdrop of the medieval period, the Middle Ages. Spoke about them in terms of the kind of literary forms that were widespread. We said if we talk about the Middle Ages, it was about morality plays and mystery plays and interludes. If we talk about the Elizabethan, the chosen and the preferred literary expression was the tragedy, and for obvious reasons, we are talking about very serious issues. We're talking about governance. We're talking about hierarchies, whether those hierarchies were hierarchies of um, color, hierarchies of race, and social hierarchies even. And of course, the biggest inspiration here would be the chain of being, where you have God on top, you have the archangels, and then the angels, and then human beings, and then plants and animals down to stone and dust. This is the archetypal chain of being from which all the other corresponding chains are taking inspiration. We said on the level of a state, you would have the king or the queen. On top, you would have nobles and princes, and then you go down to perhaps middle class people, down to the lower classes. So this is another chain that we're having. This is another hierarchy. And if you move on to race, you also have a hierarchy of race, where on top you would have Caucasians or white skinned people, and then you have people who are not very white, and down to black and dark individuals at the bottom. Um, um, it's this hierarchy of race or hierarchy of color. We said that challenging this established order is not without dire consequences. We have seen that happening with Othello, where we have seen that happening with the Duchess of Malfi. So the Duchess of Malfi and Othello are all about that, about people trying to challenge this established order, the chain of being, the hierarchy, the social hierarchy, and not getting away with it. So, in order to have or to dramatize an issue like that, very serious and very consequential, you would have to have a dramatic form that is as serious. And obviously, the tragedy or the tragedy form would be the best. We spoke also about what a tragedy is in terms of the trajectory of the main character that we call tragic hero or heroine. We said that he or she is exceptional in everything, except for the fact that he or she has a flaw uh, uh, or a weakness in his character that would kind of push him or her to make errors and mistakes. And one of those errors happens to be very fatal, and the tragic hero dies tragically at the end, stirring our feelings of pity and fear. When we are stirred in this way, uh, pitying the tragic hero uh, because he is caught in the crossfire between perhaps um, his personal inclinations and tendencies as a human being and conventions and norms. we feel pity for him because he is tossed between these two forces, uh, because he has been tested to the core, and we also feel fearful because of the fact that we are also human beings and we may be tested like him. And obviously, when you fight against and challenge social norms and traditions, you're normally weaker. No matter how hard you try, you cannot fight an entire system. And this is perhaps the message that we're taking away from a tragedy like Othello or the Duchess of Malfi. For all the love and admiration that we have for Othello and Desdemona on one hand, and the Duchess of Malfi on the other, for all our support for them, they fail. They fail spectacularly and miserably at the end, and they die very tragically. So let's perhaps focus on Othello and see how this is unfolding in the play. We have gone as far as Act One. We're talking about setting the scene by having Iago and Rodrigo talking about Othello, and then when Rodrigo leaves, we have Parapancio, the father of Desdemona, and how Iago is trying to provoke him by having those racial, references and allusions. The fact that a white girl is being, uh, uh, kind of covered and manipulated perhaps by a black individual. He's touting him. He is obviously referring to those things so that he can turn Parapancio against Othello. Again, Parapancio has his own reasons to automatically turn against Othello. The fact that Othello is black, he's not Venetian, he's perhaps double the age of his daughter. Um, he simply doesn't belong. So Parapancio has his own reasons to turn this kind of union down, and to believe that this is not natural. According to him, uh, um, a white girl would automatically and naturally get attracted to a white boy or a white man. So, what is not natural, according to him, because of this mindset that he has, that there is a chain of being and there is a hierarchy of color and race that should be honored and respected. What is not natural, according to him, is for a white girl to fall in love and subsequently get married to a black individual. This was not natural. That's why he would say that his sister, I mean, his daughter is not in her own, and is not in her right mind. She must be under a magic spell. According to him, Othello must have cast a spell on her. She cannot be in her right mind. So let's move on and see what is going to happen next. Here I'm just trying to remember where we stopped. Yeah, this is
Doctor,
where we stopped. Yeah, I'm here.
we stopped when Othello arrived in.
Exactly. Yes. Which means that you attended last time. Yeah. What's your name?
مشعل علي.
Meshal. Yeah. Did you attend the Wednesday's class?
I didn't, but I did with previous Mustafa.
Mm. Mm. Okay. طيب ممتاز. Let's do it. So this is where obviously this is exactly where we stopped, and this is Act One, Scene Two, and the entrance of Othello. We've been waiting for this moment for so long. There was excitement building up, and this is typical of tragedies. Normally, in a tragedy, the tragic hero is kept for a while, is delayed. I mean, his appearance is delayed for a while until hints are dropped about him or her, his character. Normally, um, um, we're having high expectations of him because we're not in the middle of the play where he starts to change. No, we're not yet. What we're seeing and what we're hearing about him is very good testimonials, tragic, I mean, doing stuff for Venice, very poetic and very musical and everything in between. So it's the entrance of Othello, everyone. So Othello's, of course, he's going to appear and he's very, larger than life, if you like, very uh, perhaps elevated and gigantic in appearance, and kind of coinciding with this, we have a language that is very highly elevated, that is very poetic, that is full of reference to the cosmos. Um, it's not just another kind of language, I promise you. Othello's language is so musical, is so poetic, and this is typical of the language of a tragic hero because tragic heroes are noble and exceptional, like we said. So Othello's opening words are brief but eloquent, suggesting a man of seriousness, dignity, authority, and weight. So we don't have the gross and lascivious animal language that we have heard between Iago and Rodrigo. Um, and then you would have Othello being put in a corner because he has heard the fact that Parapancio and everybody else is, kind of accusing him of casting a magical spells on Desdemona, and so he started to when Othello comes, he is going to start by telling everybody what he did to Venice and what other people did, and the fact that his services would outweigh those of others. So Othello says that his services shall outtongue his complaints. Yeah, it is true that you may be accusing me of this and that, and this is, of course, not true, but I'm telling you that I have done a lot for this country. So this is a striking metaphor that conveys in a vivid and compact way that his known virtues and achievements shall speak more loudly than Parapancio's accusations. And he also refers to the fact that, yeah, it is true that I may be from another country, I may not be an alien to you guys in Venice, but you need to know that I am back where I come from. I was royalty, I was royal. His origins, he says, are royal. He says it would be posting to announce his royal status publicly, but he doesn't do that. He doesn't go about bragging about his royal origins. Again, this is all meant to tell people I'm not just another foreigner or alien. No, I have done enough for this country, and I am also royalty and royal where I come from. Um, um, This is interesting. The fact that when you're put in a corner like that, when you're accused all the time, you would develop this tendency to kind of defend yourself, to present yourself to others and talk about the list of achievements that you have, uh, um, and which may impress on other people that he is not sure of himself. Um, and then comes the fact that it was genuine love that kind of um, you know attracted him to this demon. Um, so this is all said in very highly elevated kind of language. So Othello's language here has a rhythm and idiom that contrasts sharply with those of many of the characters around him, not merely with Iago. His characteristic rhetoric gives an impression of space and vastness. And this is an example. Instead of saying that, yeah, I may be a foreigner or an alien, but I am as housed. Housed here means a citizen, as pretty much anybody else. Yeah, I may seem unhoused or not belonging, but I am. And he's obviously talking to Iago because he believes up until this moment that Iago is a nice guy and he confides in him and everything. So for no Iago, but that I love the gentle Desdemona. I would not my unhoused free condition put into circumscription and confined for the sea's worth. Again, this is highly elevated. It may be difficult for us, but it is very highly. I mean, again, it's full of appreciation of the love that he has for Desdemona and everything. And again, if you think deeply about it, you would see the difference between how he looks at love and how Iago looks at. But according to Othello at this stage, love is noble, love is platonic, and everything. Um, so Othello's language, the word unhoused. So this word describing Othello's condition reflects the fact that he is a citizen of Venice, unlike a firmly housed Parapensio. The main characters in this play are all to a greater or lesser extent loosed from the ties of property, being soldiers, mercenaries, and all will move away from home as the setting changes to Cyprus. Yeah, this is also very interesting. We're not staying all the time in Venice. So whether we like it or not, because of external circumstances, we will all be unhoused when we go to Cyprus to defend Venice. And in this case, whose service is going to be bigger and higher than and more effective than others? Obviously, it is the services of Othello, the military leader and the strategist. Another very interesting remark about Othello's speech is and which obviously distinguishes him from others would be the fact that he always links himself and his condition and whatever happens to him to images of the cosmos and nature. Um, it feels quite natural that he should use the imagery of the sea. It is, after all, a sea-bound republic that he serves, and he will soon be upon the sea again. Because people are saying, why? Why is he always using things that would link him to the sea and to other elements of nature? Again, you need to also remember that Venice is surrounded by sea. It's a sea-bound nation state or city state. So it is characteristic of Othello to create an image of himself as linked to the forces of nature, whether we're talking about the sea, the sky, deserts, and mountains, rather than to the order and manners of the city and civilization. Again, it may indicate two things. One thing would be the fact that he uh, um, believes in himself, he has this self belief and that he is bigger and perhaps more gigantic than anything else. You only link yourself to the mountains and the deserts and the sky and the sea when you feel that you have the same importance, perhaps you have the same grandeur and the same um, aura because of your deeds and achievements, of course. And this is one thing. And also the fact that you need to remember that as a soldier, he is um, typically all the time in deserts and seas and climbing mountains to fight with other people. You don't normally, when you have an army, the army does not fight in the city. They normally fight on the borders, and those borders are normally deserts or sea borders, right? So it's only natural that he is linking himself to both. Um, so we're talking about his life experiences and history, and obviously it's very different from the histories of all the other Venetians who are rooted in city life and its manners and everything. So the sheer richness of Othello's language is surely something that influences us, not only the wonders of his exotic life story, but many phrases that he uses. So again, um, sometimes the language is very highly elevated, very eloquent, but it's hollow. Hollow means it doesn't give you substance. So, what is perhaps unique about Othello is that he has the language, that this musical and poetic language, and he has substance that can you that he can use the language for. He talks about tales of his valor, of his the victories that he achieved, the battles that he had won. Obviously, he is using the language for that, so it becomes poetic because it is poetic as a language, and also because of the ideas that this language carries. Um, Again, he keeps talking about his relationship with Desdemona, and he sees her, of course, the paragon of beauty. And again, because it's an encounter between Parapansio and Othello, Parapancho's rebuttal would be that his daughter is a maiden never bold and the epitome of feminine modesty. Othello says, yes, that's fine. I know she is all of that, but he has this underhanded hint that she was also willing. So, from those encounters between Parpancio and Othello, a whole scholarship started to form. And the idea that people are now referring to Othello's language as Othello's music. Um, so, because of how um, poetic the language is, how full of substance that people relate to. So the Othello music is a way of describing Othello's characteristically heroic mode of speech. Obviously, he is being modest at times, and he's showing intellectual humility by saying that rude am I in my speech. Obviously, this is a sign of modesty, and perhaps it's a sign of lack of confidence. Everybody's telling you that you're not good enough, you're not good enough. Sometimes you internalize that, who knows? And it's also something that we now refer to in psychology as imposter syndrome. So the imposter syndrome is when you're not you don't trust yourself enough. Everybody's telling you that you're great and everything, but you don't believe that you're that great. Perhaps Othello is having those feelings of incompetence when he is very competent and everything. Again, what other people are saying about him is perhaps what matters now. The fact that they love his language, the way he reframes and frames things to the extent that some of them and some scholars are referring to his language as the Othello music. So again, we're referring to the fact that Othello's is a grand orator, obviously, with sweeping rhythms and global and even cosmic comparisons. And obviously, you wouldn't compare him to the rest. The one who propagated this idea of Othello music is a scholar by the name of Wilson Knight. Obviously, Wilson Knight was so admiring of Othello and his language to the extent that he was ready to forgive him and absolve him of all his mistakes, grave as they are, because of his language. Wilson Knight is saying that we don't, it's not that we have a poet, no, but we're talking about a language that is full of romantic glamour, that is full of, um, elegance and also the tales that he says, the achievements. So obviously, like I said, having an elevated kind of language, poetic language, wouldn't be enough if you don't have substance that the language can express. Um, so that would lead us to this very important question. Uh, why did Desdemona fall for uh, Othello? We need to remember that of course, she was part of this kind of life that is governed by those rules, those strict rules of hierarchy and everything. She must have been aware of all of that. Something must have triggered uh, um, her. Something must have convinced her that he is the one. So, as long as we're talking about Othello and his musicality, would that be a reason that Othello's glamour in terms of the language that he uses, in terms of the tales that he tells, perhaps she was entranced by those, she was swayed by those, perhaps. Has she fallen in love with the man or the wonderful stories he tells about himself? Yeah, this is a question that we keep asking. Did she fall in love with him because she loved him genuinely as a human being, or is it because of the very nice poetic stories that he tells about himself and about his deeds and achievements? Um, Again, we need to also remember that when you look at the character of Desdemona, Desdemona was not exposed to much of the world, being who she is in a Venetian typical European society at the time. There was women were not that uh, uh, free to go about and look here and there. So one idea would that she yeah and this is something that I'm asking you to think about. Was it the glamour of the language? Was it the glamour of the stories? Um, was it her naivety, if you like, the fact that she is young and she doesn't have much experience? What did she pity him and what he has gone through? And obviously, he he talks about his deeds and also perhaps the difficult situations that he was put in. So we need to think about these things. And then we move to another part about Othello. We're talking about those ideas, honesty and difference in men and women. Um, and with this part, we've been in Venice for quite some time, and it's time that we have a change of setting and scenery. So we said that at one point in the play, there is going to be a change or a shift. We're moving from Venice to Cyprus. And obviously, the movement is very significant. What do we know about Venice, and what do we know about Venice? Obviously, Venice, like we have seen, is an organized society. It's very civilized. It's a city that is more of a trading empire. People are wealthy and rich. They have a parliament and they have elected senators. So it was like a hub or a center and a seat of civilization, very good manners. Life is very predictable. So we're moving now to Cyprus, which is an outpost of Venice. And obviously, what we know about Cyprus is very little, given the fact that it is an island where you have water surrounding and you have a sea, and typical of seas and places like this, life is quite unpredictable. You cannot tell what may happen. You may be happy today because of the quietness and the beauty of the sea, but perhaps tomorrow there, a storm can come and can everything can crumble down. You can have a tsunami. You can have lots of bad things happening because of the sea. So we're moving from the stability and the civilization of Venice to the unpredictability and perhaps the destruction that may the sea poses. Okay, so you would ask why? Why leaving the city with its civilization behind and going to Cyprus, to an island where the sea, like I said, poses a lot of danger. And obviously, the reason is because the Turks are attacking.
The Turkish Empire.
Yeah, the Turkish fleet is obviously preparing to attack and occupy Venice. So the strategy would be, and instead of waiting for them until they come to Venice, we go and try to defend from the perhaps the closest or the nearest seapost or outpost, and this happened to be Cyprus. So again, we physically we have in Cyprus we have disturbance, we have a storm, and these are all premonitions and signs referring to uh, uh, perhaps the instability that the world are in for, and a corresponding storm and instability would be inside the characters themselves. So the sea is both the source of power and also of danger, and this is perhaps what we're focusing on, the danger that the sea poses if you compare it to an inland city like Venice, where you don't have like raging seas. Um, Again, because we've been talking about Othello now, and perhaps it's about time that we compare his version of love and views of love to those of Iago, and obviously, you can almost tell that for Othello, love is platonic, love is innocent and pure, but for Iago, love is animalistic and sensual. And we have a quote here from Othello, and Othello is saying, "If it were now to die, it were now to be most happy." This is very interesting because of the feeling of loving and being loved. Othello feels that if I am to die now, I'll be the happiest person on earth because of the love that I have for Desdemona and the love that she has for me. Again, we're moving to uh, Cyprus, which is obviously a place that is full of storms, whether on the level of the place itself or within. Those storms are also fomenting within the soul of the characters. Who went to Cyprus? That's pretty much everyone. Othello and Desdemona, and also Cassio and Iago and other people. Everybody is there for, and then they are obviously allied in their pursuit. The fact that they are all trying to defend Venice. When they go there, they hear that a truce or a ceasefire was reached between the Turks and the Venetians. So, what happens if uh, when they go there, they have no business now? The fact that Othello and the other soldiers they don't have work now, and of course, you know that they are soldiers, and their life is all about soldiering, is all about battles. So now that there is a ceasefire, they had nothing to do. They have to mix with people in the city. They have to behave like civilians. But are they? The question is, are they prepared for that? Are they trained to mix with civilians and to go to shops and perhaps go to markets and do what we do as civilians? The answer is obviously no. They are trained to fight, they are trained to perhaps speak in loud voices, to use guns and swords. So for them to stop doing that because ceasefire is there and start mixing with civilians. It's not easy, and this is obviously the problem that we're having with Othello, the shift from soldiering, from fighting to behaving in a civilian way. What is noticeable again is that sometimes Othello is absent from the scene. And he is absent for sometimes long stretches of time, and we're saying that this can be very dangerous because in this case the balance of the play is shifting towards Iago. If Iago is there all the time, and Othello is absent, sometimes you may um, be more inclined to perhaps admire Iago, because we said that Iago has this inventiveness. He has this mental agility. It is true that he is evil, but the pursuing things and consistently pursuing things is something that you may or we may admire. So again, the fact that Othello is absent much of the time in scene two is not a very good thing. The balance is shifting towards Iago, so despite the references to Othello in his absence. Um, Again, this part where Iago is there all the time is all about the techniques that Iago is using when it comes to exploiting the weaknesses of those to whom he pretends loyalty. For example, one example would be for him to use Cassio's drunken rage in order to destroy him and his reputation. Again, we are going to also notice that Othello is obviously uh, um, he trusts Iago and he listens to him, and this is obviously very dangerous. So we can see from this section of the play that Iago is shown also to be a professional actor, devious and controlling towards us and everybody, as well as towards the other characters. And Othello is also shown to be a victim of Othello's maneuvering and manipulation. Again, this is anticipatory of what will happen. The fact that Othello will be, you know, will have uh, um, trust in Othello and Iago, and that will perhaps trigger all those doubting thoughts that he has against Desdemona. So Othello is becoming Iago's victim, although we cannot yet see how the hero's love for Desdemona is going to bring him down. So our sympathies are being moved towards Othello and then away from him by what we hear and see. So again, this oscillation between us admiring Othello and then our sympathies are kept away from him is because of the fact that he is sometimes absent. Again, and this is what we're warning everyone from, the idea that many audiences find themselves enjoying Iago's energy and feel complicit in his plotting at this point. Again, because of the distant figure of Othello, the fact that Othello sometimes is away. So we start to feel uh, um, we start to feel respect rather than fellow feeling and love for them. Again, because of the absence of the one and the heavy presence of the other. Um, this brings us to a very interesting aspect of the play, and we wouldn't have seen that unless we had those or this polarization over the character of Othello. When it comes to the character of Othello and his deeds and misdeeds, we have this split, this chasm between scholars. You have scholars who believe that Othello is good and noble, and he was driven to commit the crimes that he committed, the fact that he killed his wife. And you have those who believe that those, of course, who who are rational enough, who are not taken in by the oratory of Othello, those who believe that Othello is, his pain and his suffering is self-inflicted. The fact that he is responsible for what happened, and the fact that he is even to blame for them. So two camps, like I'm saying, you have the pro-Othello camp and you have the anti-Othello camp. So we're going to start with the pro-Othello camp that has A.C. Bradley and Wilson Knight. Remember, Wilson Knight used to refer to Othello and his language as music or musical. A.C. Bradley is also of the opinion that Othello is inherently good and that he was driven to do the bad things that he did. He didn't mean them, perhaps. He was driven to them by external forces and by external pressure that also at one point would be the insecurities that he feels. At another point, it would be Iago himself driving him, manipulating him. So let's go to Bradley and see what he has to say. So A.C. Bradley, who is the author of an influential critical study called or titled Shakespeare's Tragedy in 1904, saw Othello as open and passionate. He thought of him as a lover, the strength of whose passion inspired the love not only of Desdemona but the audience, who were swayed by his grandiloquence and pitied him when he fell, despite the murder of his wife. So what A.C. Bradley is saying here is that Othello was a genuine lover and genuineness and the strength of this passion of his love of this love for Desdemona, kind of inspired love for him and admiration by the audience to the extent that they are ready to kind of forgive him for what he did. And obviously what he did was big, the fact that he murdered his wife, which is obviously very ironic. It seems that AC Bradley is trying to say, yeah, it is true that Othello murdered his wife, but he is a noble murderer. This is what, of course, very ironic to be noble when you are murdered. And obviously, this is what A.C. Bradley believes, and this is what lots of people are sharing this sentiment in their love and admiration of Othello. They tend to forget that he is a murderer after all. So, according to Bradley, the view of the play is that the tragedy is the undoing of the noble Moor by the devilish cunning of Iago. So, according to Bradley, the one to blame here would be Iago because he is devilish and is cunning. And obviously, um, Othello is not to blame. He is a victim. Again, you would say, how can Othello, the high and mighty, the military strategist, be uh, victimized like that, be a victim like that? Where is his mind, his big mind? And remember, he is not just another soldier, he is a military strategist. He is also a military leader. He has gone through battles. He has been hardened by life experiences. Where is all of that? This is a question that I'm asking, and I am addressing to AC Bradley, who believes that it was all the doing of Iago, the cunning. It was all the cunning and the devilish cunning of Iago. So Bradley believes, or his view was that external evil which is the malice of the demi-devil. Iago is the thing that turned a happy story of romantic love into a tragedy. And then we move on to another view, which is obviously divergent and different, which is the view of T.S. Eliot and A.C. And F.R. Leaves. Those people are anti-Othello. In the literature or the scholarship, we refer to them as anti-Othello because they believe or they claim it all on Othello. So the poet and critic T.S. Eliot picked up what he saw as Othello's tendency to self-dramatize, especially in his final speech. So according to him, we shouldn't be in kind of deceived by Othello, and what he did is self-inflicted. It is all because he is a self-dramatizing individual, somebody who would like to stay in the limelight and under the spot all the time. In this sense, he all the time talks about his deeds, about what he did for Venice, his achievements, um, and obviously these things would kind of attract people uh, um, to him. And if he fails to attract them this way, he may put himself in situations where he can stir their pity. So if he cannot stir their admiration, he can stir their pity. So this is, like I said, this is T.S. Eliot. F.R. Leaves is sharing T.S. Eliot's sentiment or the sentiment, and he actually is presenting a rebuttal against what Bradley is saying about Othello. He says, and I'm quoting F.R. Reeves, he is saying that Bradley's view sentimentalizes Shakespeare's tragedy and displaces its center. So too much attention, according to Reeves, tends to be paid to the character of Iago and his diabolic intellect. Um, Obviously, people are uh, overlooking, this is what Reeves is saying, is overlooking the fact that it is that in Shakespeare's tragedy of Othello, Othello is the chief personage. The chief personage in such a sense that the tragedy may fairly be said to be Othello's character in action. Iago is subordinate and merely ancillary. He is trying to stress the fact that if we keep talking about Iago, if we keep referring to him to his diabolic intellect, so we're obviously shifting the attention from Othello to Iago, and obviously this is not in the best interest of Othello because the play is about Othello, and it is his actions and character in action. So this is his point. I mean, in other words, he's saying that we shouldn't be giving Iago more than he deserves. Otherwise, the play should be about Iago, not about Othello. Leaves goes on to suggest that Wilson Knight's view of the grand Othello music should be understood in a more critical way, as an indication of a habit of self-approving, self-dramatization that is an essential element in Othello's makeup and remains so at the very end. So obviously, Leaves here is turning what Wilson Knight is saying about Othello's music is turning it, I mean, uh, upside down, referring to the fact that yeah, I may agree with Wilson Knight that Othello's language is very musical and very noble and everything, but what I believe I believe this is a habit of self-approving. The fact that he is doing that on purpose so that he can, um, kind of attract people and stir and bring about their admiration. So he believed that this is part of his makeup. This is part of what he really is. He is a self-approving, self-dramatizing individual. In other words, in our modern terms, we say that he is a showy person. He is showing off. He is. He's not doing things and pursuing things for their own sake, or he's not pursuing virtue for its own sake. He's doing that because he has uh, he has a vested interest, obviously, which is showing off. Um, Leaves, as you can see, is very deep. He takes things to the next level and says, also, you need to look at Iago's prompt success, very quick success in persuading Othello of Desdemona's treachery. He says that this is not um, the formidable, no, this is not the result of the formidable abilities of Iago and his diabolic intellect. Far from it, he says that this is an indication that Othello is ready to respond, that he has this readiness, Othello has this readiness to believe. According to Leaves, Iago's power, in fact, in the temptation scene is that he represents something that is in Othello. What is it that is in Othello, according to Leaves? In Othello, the husband of Desdemona, the essential traitor is within the gates. Iago is simply um, a mechanism. He is a mere facility that make things happen, that a mere prop that can that you use for things to happen. So it's very important that uh, you realize, according to Leaves, that the traitor is within the gates, and this is very significant. So uh, you don't look for an external enemy when the enemy is within. Let's have this idea that you have, two countries fighting with each other. And in spite of the fact that you're doing an excellent job fighting the other country, but somehow your information and news are always leaked to the other army, your strategies and plans. So obviously you have traitors within your own gates from your own people and everything. This is what uh, uh, Leaves is saying, that when you think of Othello and think of the betrayal and think of the manipulation, you need to look within the gates. Within the gates means within Othello himself. Othello uh, uh, is his own traitor. And obviously, he is referring to his habits of self-dramatization, self-approving, wanting to be in the limelight, making scenarios so that he can appear either uh, uh, bigger than life itself, or if he cannot do that, he can create scenarios where he can make you feel pity for him. Let's take like a 10-minute break, and then when we come back, we inshallah continue. Okay, so I'll see you in 10 minutes, inshallah. Yeah, I'm back. Okay. Are we all here?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, good.
Welcome back.
All right. Okay. So how do you find the whole argument so far? What do you think of Othello, and what do you think of his character? What do you think of? Yeah. Okay. I would like you to keep this question down because obviously it's a little bit premature to ask this question without you seeing what will happen on. Of course, we told you ahead what happened. You could expect what would happen given the fact that we spoke about the trajectory of a tragedy, right? But we're not talking obviously about what will happen to him because that would kind of attract a lot of perhaps pity for him. But we're talking about the inner workings of his character and whether his pain and suffering is self-inflicted. Is he responsible for his own downfall, and is the traitor within, like F.R. Leaves said, or perhaps those external forces, among them would be, Iago's diabolic intellect, are responsible to. I would like you at least to keep the question in mind whether you think Othello is responsible for his downfall and what happened, or is it all because of Iago and his diabolic nature and his devilish character and everything in between? Okay, so keep this question in mind because I'll talk about it and I'll ask you to come up with your own judgments and conclusions at the end. Let's move on. Where are we now? We are um, in a very important um, place and stage in the play, a very pivotal scene that we call the temptation scene. Temptation scene. So, when I say temptation, what comes to your mind? What are the ideas? What does the word temptation trigger at the back of your mind, if any?
Food, maybe.
Excuse me?
Temptation to the food, eating.
Yeah. Food can be seductive. Yeah, yeah, true. I mean, you can be tempted to um, certain types of food. I mean, everybody's telling you that you have diabetes and you have this and that. You are still tempted to eat it, no matter what the consequences are. Yeah, this is good. What other temptation do we have in life? Trick. Yeah, somebody may tempt you and trick you and perhaps rob you of your property and money. Yeah, because of their and how sweet their perhaps talk is. Yeah,
Manipulation.
yeah, temptation can be. Yeah, I don't know which of them is part of the other, but yeah, temptation has a measure of manipulation to it. Yeah, that's true. Um, So, for example, if we talk about foreign intelligence, for example, they use women to tempt people and to have agents from other countries. That's also temptation. Um, lots. Speaking, being soft spoken, using a certain language can be also very temptive and very seductive. Yeah, true. Okay. Let's go back in history and mythology, perhaps. Let's talk about archetypal um, examples of temptation. When I say temptation, in terms of history, in terms of religion, what comes readily to mind? Who is the
Woman?
first? Yeah, who is the first tempter, and who are the first tempted?
Adam and Eve.
Adam and Eve, absolutely. This is the archetypal kind of temptation where obviously Satan is the tempter and Adam and Eve are the tempted, right? So, and obviously, when you get tempted, you will pay the price of this temptation later, right? Okay. So, let's go back to the play. So, we're saying the temptation scene. So, judging from our experience so far in the play, who is going to tempt whom? What do you think? Who is the tempter and who is the tempted?
The demi devil, Iago.
So Iago is going to be the tempter or the tempter or the tempted? The one who tempts, right? So he is
The one
going to
who
be the
tempts,
one
yes.
who tempts, yes. And who is the tempted party? Who is going to be tempted?
رودريجو.
Well, Rodrigo at one point, but we said that, Rodrigo is a character of no consequence. He's not very important. The big fish is whom? Who
Cassio.
is, no, Cass-
أوثيو.
Desdemona?
أوثيلو.
Othello, absolutely. I mean, our man, our big man, obviously. So obviously, Othello is the one who gets them, which is a contradiction of terms, remember? Should Othello, that high and mighty guy, be tempted by one of his soldiers? What do you think of this? Isn't that stupid? What do you think?
Yes,
What do you
but Ego know his weakness.
well, which is, yeah, we're acknowledging the fact that he has a weakness, right? And again, it doesn't square well with the fact that he is presented as high and mighty military strategist. He fought here and there. He climbed mountains and killed lions, and I don't know what, right? Yeah, I would like you to keep this in mind. So it's the temptation scene where we have a tempter or a tempter, which is Iago, and the tempted party or the tempted individual would be Othello here. Okay, so what is the temptation about? And obviously, in order to tempt somebody, there has to be something that you're tempting him or her about. What is the subject of temptation?
His wife? The
Yeah,
demon?
yeah, convincing him that his wife is not faithful, her love is not genuine, and she's showing interest in somebody else, right? So, what do you think before we go far or further? If somebody comes, remember, I love my wife so much, I chose her and nobody else. And everybody was talking about our love story before we got married. And somebody comes to me and says, "Listen, I have seen your wife talking to somebody. What do you think? Should I think before I act, or should I act and go and perhaps kill her and then come back and think? What is the wise decision here?"
Think?
Yeah, think of the so many sacrifices that she did for me. Remember, I am black and she's white. So by getting married to me, she is obviously defying a whole culture. She is challenging The hierarchy. Remember the hierarchy? Where is
Yeah.
she on the hierarchy? She's on top, right? And where is Othello? He is at the
Down.
bottom. So she agreed, right? So why would she switch her loyalties to somebody else? Cassio has always been there in front of her eyes. She could have chosen him first. Walay.
Yes.
Something to think about. Something to think about. Okay, so it's the temptation scene, everyone. Yeah, read this. This is part of the temptation scene. This is called Othello's Acum. Yeah, read this part, and I'm not going to comment on it until you read it and tell me what you think about it. Whether it's normal speech, whether you find it, you find something strange about the speech, something wrong, something weird. Is it normal? Is this how we speak and talk to each other? Yalla, go ahead. I'll give you a minute to think about it. Read it and think about it. Okay, what do you think?
Diego play with his word a lot. He make Othello confused. He like
Mm.
he hides something,
Yeah,
and Othello become
you
confused.
don't feel that this is a normal conversation between two people, right?
Yes,
Mm.
Othello weird. Diego weird in his word.
Mm. Mm. Yeah, that's interesting. What's your name?
Tala.
Okay, Tal. Thank you. Who else? Do you share Tala's?
Otello
Yeah.
repeating Iago's words.
Uh-huh. Do you do that when you talk to a friend of yours? Do you have a tendency to repeat yourself like this? Or your friend has a tendency to repeat himself or herself like that?
Sometimes if he lead you to something,
Yeah. So obviously, there is a message, a hidden message that Iago is trying to get across to Othello, right? It tells you a great deal about both of them, or perhaps more about Iago. What does it tell you about Iago? Yani, together with the fact that we know beforehand that he is bad and evil and everything.
I don't know. He snake. He acts so nice.
Mm-hmm.
and choose his word,
Mm,
and he act like he's so scared to
mm,
Othello make him
mm.
lose him, you know?
Yeah, maneuvering, right? Tricky, and even coward, right? He is he's cowardly because I mean he doesn't tell Othello straight that I suspect that something is going on between Desdemona and Cassio. He is driving Othello towards this conclusion, right? Because he doesn't want Othello to say to tell him, yeah, he is also building this excitement, negative and misdirected excitement, I know. He is building this feeling within Othello, obviously, because if he tells Othello right away that something is happening, Othello would shut him down right away, but he is playing with the words, echoing. So these are all obviously techniques that maneuvering individuals, manipulative people use. They don't tell you right in your eye that this is this, right?
Yes.
So did he succeed towards the end when Othello said, "Think, my lord, by heaven thou echoest me, as if there were some monster in thy thought." Do you think that Othello got the bait? بلع الطعم بقى.
Yes.
Yeah. He at least he started to think. He is telling Iago there is some monster in your thought. You have in your mind, you have a monster. You know what a monster is? You're hiding something big, right?
Yeah.
Mm. So isn't that temptation? Isn't what Iago is doing temptation?
Yes, Iago's pause at questioning and vague answer push Otello to think that there is something.
Yes. So now that we have read this part, so how does Iago tempt or manipulate Othello so as to enrage him against Cassio and Desdemona? And do you guys view or think that Iago is just a dramatic mechanism whereby Othello's deeper fantasies are brought out? Yeah, I'll keep this question until later, like I promised you. This is interesting. Critic Marjorie Garber is suggesting that one of the ways Iago manages or tempts Othello is by being an echo, turning the meaning of his words against themselves. Certainly, Iago's apparently innocent repetition of Othello's indeed and honest and think is typical of his technique of pretending to avoid speaking the awful truth so as to protect his master from it, while at the same time ensuring it filters into Othello's mind. So we have this dramatic line by line exchange where Iago asks whether Cassio knew from early on that Othello was in love with Desdemona. And this is again the echo part. So if we take the play's word for it and believe that Othello is going to succumb to those temptations and is going to submit and agree with Othello or with Iago, we need to ask why? Why is Othello so ready to accept those insinuations? By the way, what you have read is called insinuations. Insinuations are not direct. You know, when when he repeats your words, when he indirectly refers to something these are all called insinuations. So insinuations are not direct talk. So the question is again, why is Othello so ready to accept Iago's insinuations? Is it because Othello has something in his character and in his makeup that kind of prompt him to believe?
Maybe because of his own insecurity.
Yeah,
And
perhaps he has insecurities like everybody else. Now, we all have our own insecurities. But let's talk about Othello's insecurities. Where are those insecurities come from? What are they? You know what insecurities are? Complexes that we have, psychological complexes that we have inside ourselves. Sometimes
maybe,
those insecurities conspire against us when they become big and so many, it becomes a problem. Okay, so let's talk about Othello's insecurities, assuming that he has some. I think somebody wanted to say something. Yalla, go ahead. One.
oh, oh yeah, I was thinking about what father of Demonda said to Othello,
Mm.
that he did that to me and why she did not to Othello. And Othello started thinking because he black and he down and she up and he
Yeah, again,
different.
yeah, excellent. This can be an insecurity, the fact that they belong to two different races. Perhaps this is an inferiority complex upon the part of Othello. He keeps thinking about it. Yeah, yeah, maybe she loves or she has this affair with Cassio because he is white and I'm not white, right? So it can be the fact that he is, in terms of hierarchy, he is inferior. He is black and she's white. Yeah, that can be. Yeah. What other inferior, I mean, I'm sorry, insecurities you can think of, Imam?
His color and race.
Yeah, color and race. This is something that we referred to. Yeah. What else? What else do we know about Othello that can contribute towards this idea of inferiority, insecurities? How old is Othello and how old is Desdemona? Do you think that they are the same
Both.
age? Is he
No,
No,
older?
he's much older.
Yeah, he is way older, right? Yeah, that can be a reason, right? Why would she fall for me? I am 50 and she's 20, perhaps. Keep thinking, right? Yeah, that can be a reason.
Also his deep trust in Iago.
Mm, well, yeah, it can be. Yeah, it can. But this is not an insecurity. This is a weakness. Insecurities are complexes that you have inside you.
Also like a deep feelings like he is not belong to this society.
Yeah, the fact that yeah, he's an outsider. Yes, I mean, so no matter how hard I try, they don't accept me. They refer to me as unhoused, which means that I don't belong. So no matter how hard I try, perhaps she's one of them. Yeah, she fell in love with me at one point, but over time, she believes that I'm a foreigner. I'm an outsider. Yeah, that's good. Okay. So Shakespeare suggests that it is Othello's own insecurity that gives Iago the opportunity to work on his feelings. Okay, so what are those insecurities? Remember, he is the outsider, the extravagant and wheeling stranger in this community of Venetians, and he is always portrayed as forever homeless, uprooted, and on the move, incapable, or at least so his enemies content of ever being naturalized, and he is ethnically different. See, ethnically different, outsider, stranger, homeless, uprooted. So obviously, you would add this climate of racism, the fact that Othello is a middle-aged soldier accustomed to the exclusively male world of military life and quite unaccustomed to the company of women. Um, and again, you would have Iago, fomenting and adding to that. You would also have people like Parapansio um, talking about that, and you have people saying that if she deceived her father, she's likely to deceive you too, right? And when she seemed to shake and fear your looks, she loved them. Um, did Desdemona? The quotation starts with Desdemona did deceive her father, marrying you, and when she seemed to shake and fear your looks, she loved them most. Obviously, this is an echo of Parapansio's warning at the end of Act 1, Scene 3. And again, this is reinforcing Othello's insecurities and also about his sexual attractiveness. So Othello's insecurities about his race and age and lack of experience with women intensify a tendency to expect the worst of the opposite sex. Obviously, we're not excusing Othello by saying this, the fact that he collapsed into a homicidal sexual jealousy, but we're trying to seek to explain it. Um, so it does seem that Othello is the victim of Iago's cunning, but Shakespeare also makes it clear how much the hero resembles Iago and the other male Venetians in his masculine pride and suspicious distrust of women. Again, they are all equal in this. The fact that they all, whether they are black or white, distrust and doubt women. Again, over time, uh, um, and because of Othello's insecurities, and because of um, societal, uh, norms, he will share other people's views about women, the fact that they don't trust them. And this happens when he dwindles in status, when he starts to behave like Iago. So Othello's insecurities being put under the spotlight um, um, are obviously, and his grandiloquence is twisted into an expression of horror at the thought of being deceived by Desdemona, revealing his decline to the level of Iago's pornographic imagination. He started to hallucinate and use very negative and bad and obscene words that if you don't know that those words were uttered by Othello, you would imagine that they were uttered by Iago. Where is his music then? This is a question that we keep asking. If he has gone that low in his language against women and Desdemona, obviously we need to bring in Wilson Knight and ask him, where is his music? Where is his elegance, elevation, and where is his eloquence, and where is his noble language and musicality? And this is what perhaps the Polish critic and theater director Jack Cott is saying. He's saying that there is enchanting poetry here, but at the same time, a decaying set of values. Nor only shall Othello crawl at Iago's feet, he shall talk his language and take over from Iago all his obsessions. This is dwindling, this is collapsing. So the question is now popping up. Is Othello getting metamorphosed into another Iago? Are we seeing another Iago in Othello? Do they both possess the same character after all? And then we move on to Act 3, Scene 3, where we will have a great deal of violence and death. Who is going to perpetrate this kind of violence and who is going to die? I'm asking you. Again, not judging from what you know about the play, but what we said about the trajectory of a tragic hero, the trajectory of a tragedy. So, what are we expecting if we if we're moving towards violence and death? Who is going to perpetrate this kind of violence and who is going to be on the receiving end of this kind of violence and who is going to die eventually?
Oth- Othello, he
Othello
will doing the
is
flow.
you mean Othello is going to commit acts of violence, right?
Exactly.
Okay, and who is going to be on the receiving end of those acts of violence?
Didymona,
Dimona.
This
Yes.
demon. And who is going to die eventually?
Lego.
Iago is going
Didymona,
to die, Desdemona, and also Othello.
Othello,
Yeah, he has to die. Why?
because it is a tragedy.
Because it's a tragedy and he's a tragic hero, right?
Yes.
Okay, because eventually we have to satisfy those conditions of pity and fear, right? Remember? In order for
Yeah.
us as audience to get rid of our excessive feelings of anger or pressure at home or at work or at school. We go to the play and we relate sometimes, okay? We feel for the characters, pity and fear and everything in between. We get, I mean, when we relate, when we get excited with what is happening, we get rid of our excessive feelings from home, from work, okay? And our feelings of pity and fear also get stirred. So eventually we get purged and cleansed of those feelings and we become fresh again. We're purged. This is called catharsis. In Arabic, they call it tathir. Okay. Um, I think I need to stop here because this is obviously. We're going to stop here on this note and with this item. And I am inviting you to attend on Wednesday if you have time. I'm sorry, on Tuesday at 2 p.m. with the other class if you would like. Yeah, and obviously, if you don't have the time or you don't have the desire, that's fine. But if you would like to come, I'll send you the link, inshallah. It's not this link, it's the other link, the other classes link. So it's Tuesday, inshallah, at 2 p.m. طيب, if you have any questions, come to the mic and share. Yeah,
We will take, inshallah, the next lecture, the ending.
yeah, inshallah. We'll end and we're going to also start the Duchess of Malfi.
Yeah, what about the literature analysis of this story? What kind of questions will be in the quizzes and the exam?
Well, midterms and finals are essay questions that you should be answering. Part of it is also and the in-class activities are multiple choice questions about certain ideas. We'll have time, I think, to talk about the midterm exam before the midterm exam comes. Do attend the master classes with Dr. Mustafa because he talks about those procedural issues. He talks about the exams and their format and everything in between.
Okay, thank you.
Work. Okay. يلا يا جماعة. I'll see you inshallah. Either on Tuesday if you decide to come or inshallah next week on Sunday. Assalamu alaikum. Bye bye.